balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic. Providing context on today's events, this is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. Sorry, got a little something in my throat. Anyway, apparently my whiskey warriors over in Rumbleland are comparing how many screws, straps, rods, and etc. paraphernalia they have in their bodies. Kind of gives you an idea of the average age range over there, doesn't it? Oh, boy. Anyway, hello. I hope everybody has all their digits. I have mine. I have all mine. So there you go. And, oh, well, you know, hopefully everybody enjoyed the, I hope everybody enjoyed the wonderful 250th birthday of this country. Well, now we've celebrated the birthday. Now it's time to buckle down, because I'm telling you, if we lose this country to this socialist danger that we have coming up in the ranks of the Democrat Party, I'm just gonna say we're having some serious problems. That's all I got to tell you. That's all I got to tell you. Yeah. All right. Let's go ahead and get things kicked off tonight. Tonight, let's see, who is tonight? Tonight, oh yes, tonight is Ms. T. Ms. T of Texas is up for the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hat if you're wearing one, like me. Place your hand over your heart and follow along with Ms. T as she recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty, folks, and I thank you, Ms. T, for that wonderful rendition of the Pledge. If you would like to hear your rendition of the Pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself reciting or performing the Pledge in your style. Take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, and attach it to an email. And then send that email off to me. Send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. And I will get you into the rotation. I have 24 of these. I'd like to get 26 by the end of 2026. So if you haven't done one already, please do so. And if you utilize your phone to do the recording, you can utilize the share option. That's the S-H-A-R-E option. And you'll be able to send that to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. And I will get you into the rotation as soon as possible. Now, tonight's headline sponsor, I don't promote my stuff that often. In fact, hardly at all. Call it a character flaw of mine, but I self-praise stinks, self-promotion stinks. But tonight I'm wearing one of my logoed shirts. Here, let me pull the mic out of the way so you can see. See, there it is, one of my logoed shirts. And you can get yours by heading off to, let's hope this is it. Nope. Wrong one. There we go. Store.AmericanPerspective.online. That's store, S-T-O-R-E, at AmericanPerspective.online. And let me show you what you're going to run into. There you go. you can go and check out all of my styles. I have crew neck sweatshirts, t-shirts, long sleeve t-shirts. I got a plethora of all kinds of things. Hoodies, tank tops. You need them today if you're on the East Coast, man. Let me tell you, you didn't even need them here. I probably should have one right now because it's almost 80 here at the northwest corner of the planet. But yeah, head on over to store.americanperspective.online. That's store, STORE, .americanperspective.online. And there's also some links to go and get the Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution as well. You can click on it there. You see it at the bottom corner. And then, if you go to the next page, which should go here. Come on. Come on. Oh, something's not right. Something's not right here. I don't know what's going on here, but something ain't right. That's not right. Anyway, you can head on over to that, there it goes. Oh, wait. Come on. Uh-oh. Looks like I have discovered a break. Hold on. Let's see if this works. Oh, there it goes. Now it took a while, but it finally hit. Anyway, you can head on over. You can pick up water bottles, stainless steel travel mugs with the alternate 3 of my logo. And there you go. And I have some other stuff. And for those who have been around long enough, I think the Whiskey Musings store is still open. Let's see. Should be. I haven't turned it off. Let's see here if I go and hit that. Yep. The Whiskey Musings store is still up. And here's Nana's tube top. No, it's not a tube top. It's a gator. But for those who still want to grab some of the old Whiskey Musings gear, yeah, unfortunately, I switched product folks, and because these guys took forever to print stuff. The new shop has stuff that comes in a lot faster. So if you order something from the Whiskey Musings side, just saying, be very careful in terms of order it, but expect the long lead time because the way that they do things are a little bit different. But you can head on over to this shop and still pick up stuff. It should still be connected and everything else. So, yeah, there you go. It's got a lot of when I think I drink. That was my catchphrase back then. There's your tube top right there. Anyway, my Whiskey Warrior and unofficial producer is, well, let's just say she can fit into that gator without a problem. Anyway, moving on. So there you go. Yeah, go and check it out. I usually don't pump this stuff, so, I'd appreciate it. But head on over to store.americanperspective.online, and you'll find all of the links that you need to go to wherever it is that you want to go. So store.americanperspective.online is where you can head, and you'll get to everything. Anyways, so there you go. All right. And I do appreciate it. Believe me, all of the proceeds go directly to, the show, obviously. I don't take any kind of cut or anything else. There's stuff like a telephone number that I have, expenses like that. I put it into adding more higher quality gear, that kind of stuff. So it goes directly into the show. It doesn't go into my pockets or anything like that. Alrighty. Well, let's go ahead and start talking about the Dems. Now, The Democrats apparently are now starting to realize that maybe they picked the wrong horse up in Maine. Yeah. I mean, no surprise. Seriously, you back a guy who has a Nazi tattoo. Well, he doesn't have it now, but he did. You back that guy, and oh my gosh, what ends up happening? Well, maybe more skeletons come tumbling out of his closet. Graham Plattner is now being accused of a sexual assault allegation. And this is coming from a 41-year-old Maine woman who is also on the left. It's going to be hard to step around that one. Anyway, yeah. It was, and it's not really any surprise. I mean, how many other things do we have here? We have, sexual assault. We have the Nazi tattoo. We have the girlfriends who all joined in and said, yeah, he knew what it was all about, even when he lied and said he didn't know. Yeah. Anyway, but the Democrats went ahead and embraced him. Well, there's also another poll that came out with regards to these, to the Senate race up in Maine. And there you go. Graham Plattner is now 4% behind Susan Collins. And you'll notice, by the way, if you look down at the bottom, right there, the last one there, if they'd have gone with Janet Mills, they probably would have had a much better chance. That's it. Seriously. And by the way, you can see the question right below me here, but if I scroll down just a little bit, they were asked as well, if another negative story is released about Plattner's personal life, would you want him to drop out? 3/4 of the respondents said yes. You need to go away. Well, I guess if these guys had really paid attention to what was going on and vetted this guy a lot better, yeah. He probably wouldn't be. He wouldn't be here. Oh well. I mean, I guess the Democrats have no other choice but to back the worst of the worst of the worst. Anyway. Yeah, some of these people are even saying, and this is former DNC chair Donna Brazil. She's calling for him to step aside before July 13th, which, if I check the calendar, I think is next Monday, so 1 week from today. They want to replace him with whatever their choice is. In other words, they want to pull a Kamala. Yeah, there you go. Anyway. Sorry. Anyway, yeah. Oh. Well, they're imploding. Well, they're having more than an implosion, by the way. They're having more than an implosion. So, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, who we all know was a candidate to run with the Cackles the clown, but wasn't picked because of the fact that he was, well, let's just say he's Jewish. He apparently is now slamming socialist New York Dem Daria Zilla Avila Chevalier, or however it's pronounced. Anyway, and he also continued and says, well, you know what? We got to be ready because the future, a major battle for the future of the Democrat Party is coming. Well, it's not coming, Josh. It's here. It's here. because you have a bit of a problem known as your party has been taken over by socialists. Yes. So, Josh Shapiro told CNN's State of the Union yesterday, quote, her district voted for her, but I have profound differences from that particular candidate. Well, yeah, you're not the only one. I mean, even the Ragin' Cajun, I can't even think of his name. I can picture Carville. Even James, there we go. James Carville, he even had problems and said, you're not part of my party. Anyway, Shapiro continued and says, she's not someone who seemingly I would agree with on many things or that we share similar values. She ran on the Democrat ticket. I guess she's a socialist. Her voters in that district determined that she was the one they wanted representing her. Yeah. Yep. This is a picture of her with Ma'am Danny. Yeah, this is her right here. Whoop, that's her. And she's on tap and on record by saying that 9/11 was America's fault, by the way. Anyway, I think that was her. I don't know. I'm getting confused. There's a lot of them idiots that are out there. Anyway, so yeah, she beat it. By the way, she beated a Hispanic caucus chairperson. I thought the Democrat Party was all about the special minority groups. Really. Yeah. Anyway. Well, she is the one that said, I forgot to get napkins, so I just wiped my hand on the American flag that was behind her. She already, Anyway, Shapiro did contend, I think what our party has to go through will be very healthy, and something we've not really done since the 1992 election cycle is to have a battle over what we believe in. Don't believe it or not, Shapiro is actually widely seen, they claim, as a comparatively moderate figure, although, unlike John Fetterman, Shapiro is careful about picking fights with the far left. Sure. But this is probably something that Shapiro sidestepped a question or two about how his Jewish identity would impact his prospects of becoming the Democrats' presidential standard bearer in 2 years. Yeah, that's not going to go. I'm going to tell you that right now. If the Democrats can't get rid of the radical Marxist socialist wing of their party, yeah, he's not gonna go anywhere. I'm just saying he's not gonna go anywhere. I mean, Scott Wiener in California is figuring that out because he showed up at some park. I don't know. There was some like trans event there or whatever. And he was walking through the park. Apparently he is like really, really tall, 6'7" or something. I mean, he's somebody that you would obviously see walking through a crowd. Clearly. Okay. But apparently he was walking through, and because of, Wiener's a sick cat. That's all I got to tell you. I mean, he is a very sick cat because of the fact that he wants to like open up young men pedophilia and stuff like that. In fact, he got a law passed in California that allows for younger folks to not get in trouble when having relationships with older folks. He got that law passed. I think he called it like the Romeo and Juliet law or something like that. But yeah, it was targeted toward young boys. I guarantee you. And young rapists. But anyway, I digress. As far as that goes, he was walking through the park at this event, and he was accosted by several people who were essentially there saying, hey, you know what? I really support your stances on trans rights, your stances on, some other issues, some other Democrat-loving issues. But then they got to the fact that he supports the right of Israel to exist. And like a pack of dogs or a school of sharks, I think they call them a school. Anyway, like a bunch of sharks, when they smell blood in the water, oh my Lord. If you've ever seen the video of this, man, one started chanting, the next thing you know, they had every single freaking person surrounding this guy chanting at him. And he's, look, you can disagree with the guy, even though he's a leftist. I get it. You can disagree with the guy all you want. Totally understand. But at times you don't need to be like overtly rude about it. And that's exactly what these people were doing, is they were surrounding him. They were chanting and yelling at him, so on and so forth. And, well, the left is going to eat its own. That's all that's going to happen here, is that the left is going to eat its own. And they're working on it, too. Speaking of that, the left has now released, not like we really didn't know what was going to happen if the leftists get back in charge. But apparently, according to Politico, there's an article in Politico, and, there's some key House caucuses, and those are the House of Representatives, all right? The key House caucuses, groups that are a part of the House of Representatives that are all, like, grouped together. They supposedly, vote for the same things and things like that. Well, things like the Black, the Hispanic, the Progressive Caucus chairs, there's three, that's three. They all came together and wrote up a resolution. And this resolution, by the way, includes some very familiar items. For an example, the resolution calls for the expansion of the Supreme Court. Yep. They also want to establish term limits and a code of ethics for the justices that are there. And surprise, surprise, they are calling for the elimination of the 60-vote filibuster in the Senate. Now, Politico is claiming, the Politico writer is claiming, that the resolution stands virtually no chance of adoption. Publicly, I would say no. But I can guarantee you that's exactly what they are going to be doing. Exactly what they are going to be doing. So, yeah. And, of course, a lot of this has to deal with the fact that the Supreme Court, said, hey, race cannot be the primary factor in districting when you're looking at districting your states. That the Constitution prevents use of race as a primary factor for this. It's hilarious because even now, the Speaker Johnson is saying, "Oh yeah, we're gonna bring the SAVE Act. We're gonna bring the SAVE Act back up." And it's a little late for it to be put into play for 2026. Just saying. But also, it's not going to matter anyway, as long as John Thune is in charge of the Senate and doesn't want to do what must be done in order to save America and save us from these idiots that are about to try, if they get back into power, that they're about to try and destroy all of America. That's what they're looking to do. I guarantee it. And they're no longer hiding it anymore. They're just, I mean, look, they threw out this resolution. They're putting it right out in front of us. They're basically saying that, hey, this is what we're doing. This is what we want. The resolution reads, quote, the court's far-right supermajority poses a serious threat to any future attempts by Congress to realize the promise of a multiracial democracy, rein in executive power, champion workers' rights, protect voting rights. Oh, that's a laugh because that's what the SAVE Act does. And restore and strengthen the federal protections against racial discrimination in the Voting Rights Act. No. Anyway. Yeah. So there you go. And they're pushing it. They're pushing this. So, I guess the leaders of the resolution are supposed to speak at a news conference this Wednesday. I think it's this Wednesday. No, this was written on the 24th. So, let me look at the calendar. 24th. Yeah, they probably already spoke about it. Anyway, enough about that. Well, these guys, I'm telling you, folks, we are in an existential crisis for the soul of this country right now. Right now. Well, if you had any question as to where the policies, where these leftists actually reside, well, I can tell you. They are everywhere. These leftists are in every single institution that we have. Now, one of the things that, of course, is happening, which I've myself have been telling you about on this program, is the fact that there is a huge chunk of our folks, meaning our posterity, our offspring, the Gen Zers, and the new one, whatever it is, and the millennials that are just now learning about things like, oh, what's our 250th anniversary for? You know, only 40% actually knew. Well, there's a reason why. One reason is because of the fact that places like the Smithsonian, which should be the National Museum of American History, and put forth American history, like all of America history, not slanted, woke, leftist, modified American history like the 1619 Project was. But apparently, according to the 162-page report, Saving America's Story, which was released on the 4th, basically shows that the Smithsonian's flagship history museum abandoned its original mission of fostering patriotism in favor of political activism, rooted in what the report describes as a critical social justice ideology. The report says, quote, our central finding is not that the museum has simply added overlooked stories. Rather, it is that museum leadership has explicitly adopted an ideological framework that no longer treats the American story as a shared national inheritance to be taught or celebrated, but as a political instrument to divide, dispirit, and discourage our citizens. According to the report, the museum minimizes the nation's founding fathers and founding documents while emphasizing themes of systemic racism, oppression, and national failure. It contends visitors will find no major no major exhibits dedicated to George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, the Continental Congress, or the American Revolution, while figures such as Benjamin Franklin are presented primarily through the lens of slavery. The report also criticizes museum leadership, particularly Director Anthea, I think that's pronounced right, Hartig, citing public statements in which she described history as a prime tool of social justice, advocating connecting scholarship with activism, and said the nation's 250th anniversary should be problematized, whatever the hell that means. The report argues that these views conflict with the museum's founding purpose of celebrating America's heritage. Among the other findings, the report alleges the museum actually promotes activism related to illegal immigration, transgender ideology, and race while portraying Christianity primarily as an instrument of conquest instead of acknowledging its role in shaping the nation's founding principles. Total 1/3 of the books that were referenced during the creation of the Constitution, 1/3, 30% of the references that were used during the Constitutional Convention to create our U.S. Constitution was none other than the book Deuteronomy in the Bible. That was more than Locke, more than Montesquieu, more than Thomas Paine, all of those people who were in effect. I'm not denying that. But it was Deuteronomy, the book of Deuteronomy, that was number one in terms of all of the references as they were arguing about the Constitution. By the way, exhibits, I mean, this is paid for by your tax dollars, folks. Exhibits that characterize Thanksgiving as a national day of mourning and portray European settlement as largely colonial oppression. Yeah. Anyway. And by the way, the White House report concludes that because the Smithsonian receives more than $1 billion annually in federal funding, taxpayers have a right to expect it to present American history in a manner that is accurate, honest, unifying, inspiring, and ennobling. Yep. There you go. Well, they're everywhere. These leftist lunatics are everywhere. Well, now that the party is over, we've hit our birthday, it's time to buckle down and start. There's a suggestion in Just the News, an article that talks about 5 battles that Trump must win ahead of the midterms. First one is resolving the Iranian conflict. Okay. That needs to be resolved ahead of the midterms. Okay. This second one is, the reason being, by the way, just so you know, the reason why you would resolve that hopefully before the midterms is it would actually lower the energy prices and help inflation, demonstrate strength, provide a tangible win to say, hey, we won. Position Republicans as effective on national security. And I tend to agree with all of that. Securing America's elections is also up there, which is obviously the Save America Act. Now, that's going to continue to stall in the Senate because we don't have Americans, we don't have Republicans with balls. We don't have Republicans with balls to go up. It's one of the most popular issues, too. I don't know why the Senate Republicans can't just say, you know what? This is more than a plurality. This is more than three quarters of the American people. We're talking like 83%, according to polls, including 71% of Democrats that all want voter ID. Don't see why this is even a questionable issue. Anyway. So I don't know. I don't know why they're dragging their feet on this. Obviously, they have a bit of a problem with this. It just doesn't seem to make sense. Another thing that he should be able to try and resolve before the midterms: inflation, cost of living. Well, that is tied to the Iran thing. So there you go. Then let's see what else. Oh, immigration deportation. Yeah, there's immigration and border security are still up there, the top three, one of the top 3 to 4 with voters. So some of the things that they need to do is they need to, start getting rid of these people that are here. I got something on that here in just a minute that would help if they could do this. And I still haven't quite figured this out, but another issue that the Just the News article is saying is healthcare costs. Now, I'm telling you, I would love it if a Democrat or leftist or somebody, a rhino, somebody could point to me where under Article 1, Section 8 in the United States Constitution, where all of government's lawmaking powers are enumerated. In other words, the topics that government is supposed to be creating legislation for is enumerated in the Constitution under Article 1, Section 8. I would love for somebody somewhere to go and tell me which one of those 18 items covers health care. I'm just asking. Because, again, Medicaid, Obamacare, even welfare, and I hate to say it, but even Social Security, none of that stuff is in the Constitution as a responsibility of the federal government. Once people can learn about that and understand it, well, then maybe they'll start to realize that part of the problem with inflation, actually the problem with inflation, is the fact that government is living too well, in the words of Ronald Reagan. See, as I've explained many times, is that what government does is government has to print money in order to spend money, because government doesn't make money. It takes in less than what it actually spends out. And so in order for it to be able to keep spending, it has to keep printing money. Well, every time you print money, you lower the buying value, or the buying power, I should say, of those dollars that are being printed. And that is what is called inflation, because it takes more actual dollars. It it takes more actual dollars in order for you to buy the same things that you used to be able to buy for less a year ago. Okay? Now, one thing that has affected your pocketbook, and this is where policy, government policy, directly affects individuals' buying power, inflation, etc. Everybody keeps talking about, oh, housing costs are so bad. You know, Ma'am Danny is like, oh, yeah, we're going to freeze all rent. Well, what happens with that? That's been done over and over and over again and proven to be ineffective in doing anything for this. And so what are these people doing? What are they thinking? They're thinking that, oh, we're going to make it easier for people to gain houses. Well, there's only one problem. You want to lower cost. And this is true. You want to lower cost. All right? Make more. Increase supply to match demand. You increase supply, demand staying the same means prices drop. It's basic economics 101. Okay? Now, one thing that happened with housing prices and rental prices and everything else, well, there was a Federal Reserve working paper that came out. Now, I glanced over this last week. But a new Federal Reserve working paper found that the record surge in illegal immigration during the Biden administration triggered the higher home prices and rents. Yeah, his border policies. Joe Biden's border policies strained housing and other public resources. All the time they were saying that, oh, well, Democrats were saying that it helped ease labor shortages and supported economic growth, which it didn't. The paper, which was published by the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas, combines immigration court records with government administrative data to measure how the unprecedented wave of illegal immigration from 2021 to 2024 affected local labor and housing markets. Now, the authors do mention, okay, that this is just a preliminary draft, and it does not necessarily reflect the views of the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas or the Federal Reserve System. However, researchers did find that the influx of illegal immigrants boosted employment with little measurable effect on wages, but significantly increased housing demands. What they found was that a 1% increase in unauthorized workers relative to the local labor force corresponded with roughly a 1% increase in overall employment. No evidence the immigration surge actually reduced average wages. However, that same 1% increase was associated with a roughly 2.2% rise in home prices and a 1.4% increase in rents. Now, researchers found little evidence that home building expanded enough to meet the added demand. Remember what I was saying? When supply goes down and demand goes up, prices rise. When supply goes up, demand goes down, prices drop. Demand can actually stay the same in some of those cases, and have prices drop. Now, researchers found little evidence that home building had expanded, concluding the influx actually acted as a housing demand shock in markets where supply was already constrained. The economists estimate unauthorized immigrant worker flows accounted for about 30% of employment growth, roughly 30% of home price growth, and about 20% of rent growth in the average metropolitan area between March of 2021 and March of 2024. So there you go. Now, they do mention that these estimates apply to the average metro area that was studied, but does not suggest that immigration was the sole driver of rising costs nationwide. However, again, 30%. 30%. Think about that. You have a house that costs $100,000, and this is low, but you have a house that costs $100,000, a 30% increase would mean that that would be now $130,000 instead of $100,000. That's a significant increase. That's a significant increase. So, yeah. But that's not the only spot. See, one of the other problems that we have with a government spending money, and believe me, this is exactly what these socialists want. These democratic socialists and the Democrats themselves, they want big government. They want government spending all this money. They want government control of things like rent and housing and the means of production. They want all of that. They also don't care about fraud. People are wondering about how healthcare costs keep rising. And keep wondering about why healthcare costs keep rising. Well, there's a report that came out that apparently the corporate media totally missed this. A new report issued by the Department of Health and Human Services provides another perspective on the expiration of the COVID-era enhanced Obamacare subsidies. Official reports by the CBO and the Government Accountability Office, the GAO, have previously examined how applicants misstate their income to qualify for subsidies, COVID-era subsidies, and how the exchange permitted enrollments of fictitious applicants. Yep. Basically, groups of individuals that got enrolled falsely, meaning more people were put on the program. Now, they've been removed now, but additional groups also still enrolled with signs of questionable activity as well. So in other words, Obamacare fraud is causing a problem too. This report that was put out reveals how the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services removed enrollees over the second half of the year due to various program integrity efforts. For an example, here's a chart for you. There we go. You can see how many enrollees were taken off the program between 2024 and 2025. They culled the rolls, the 2 rounds of Medicaid periodic data matching in the chart. That's your 2 lines, your orange line and your blue line. Removing people enrolled simultaneously in Medicaid as well as the exchange subsidies. They culled the rolls by about 550,000. CMS also removed approximately 665,000 enrollees who did not file federal taxes to reconcile the subsidies that they received in prior years. The subsidy amounts they should have received is based on actual income and not projected income. So, there you go. It continues The report states that 27.8% of individuals in a plan where they pay no premiums whatsoever canceled their plans through May 2026. Now, normally you would think that somebody getting free health care wouldn't cancel their enrollment. But of course, yeah, those people could be or could have been enrolled without their consent, or are concerned about having to repay subsidies that they do not qualify for. So there you go. And there's more, but this is what the Democrats want for you. This is what the Democrats want for your money. Okay? And speaking of money, they want more fraud, they want more all this other stuff, but this is one of the things that, unfortunately, Congress itself can anybody tell me, in, again, healthcare, we're dealing with healthcare, Article 1, Section 8, where in Article 1, Section 8 does it say healthcare is a responsibility of the federal government? I'm going to answer your question, or answer the question. It doesn't. There's not a single item that indicates that the federal government should be in charge of your health care at all. But Congress failed to do their job. So now Planned Parenthood, which wasn't receiving Medicaid funding, have now decided, because they failed to renew the ban on Planned Parenthood getting this funding, they're now allowing it to happen again. So now Planned Parenthood is getting your tax dollars. They can receive hundreds of millions of dollars in Medicaid funding after the ban expired without congressional action. So the one big beautiful bill, by the way, passed by the Republicans, signed by President Trump on July 4th of last year, included a one-year prohibition on Medicaid payments to nonprofits that provide abortions, and took in more than $800,000 in such payments in fiscal year of 2023. The ban was initially blocked by the courts, but an appeals court restored it in late of 2025. The members of Congress had been working to try and extend the ban, but failed to reach an agreement by the time it expired, enabling Planned Parenthood and its clinics access to Medicaid funds. Once again, I don't understand this. How nobody has bothered to sue these people on behalf of the actual Constitution, and by that I mean the federal government, on the actual Constitution, what they're supposed to be doing, and the 10th Amendment, which basically says clearly that anything not listed in this Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, is in the hands of the states and the people. See, that is not a federal government activity. And these people, see, what happens is you send it up to the government. The government doesn't care how it spends its money because it's not their money. The government doesn't care how the quality of care that you get because they're not the ones receiving the care. This is the third-party payer problem explained easily by Milton Friedman. And if you don't know who that is, just put in one of your favorite AIs and learn about Milton Friedman. Absolutely brilliant man, along with Thomas Sowell. Anyway. Well, as we start closing down the clock here on tonight's episode, Trump has suggested that he may have one person in mind that if we lose somebody on the Supreme Court, that he has somebody that he thinks that he could appoint that would gain complete approval in the Senate. That's right. There is one person, one single person that Trump thinks that he can get passing in the Senate. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
In fact, somebody said, would you ever appoint him to the United States Supreme Court? Because he's a brilliant lawyer, Ted. I said, well, he's the only one I can think of that's going to get 100 votes. All Republicans will vote for him. All Democrats will vote for him because they want to get him the hell out of the Senate. No, if I was having a hard time with getting the votes, I would appoint Ted Cruz. I get 100%, a guarantee.
Yep, there you go. Trump says that if he would appoint anybody to get past the Senate confirmation hearings, it would be Ted Cruz. Because everybody hates Ted Cruz in the Senate, supposedly. Yeah. Anyway. All right. Well, I'm saying I'll throw my hat in the ring, man. Bring in somebody. I'm saying this seriously. There is no requirement for nomination of a Supreme Court justice where they have to have been a prior judge or a prior lawyer or any of that. There is nothing in the Constitution. There is nothing in anything. I mean, yes, you have to survive Senate confirmation hearings, but realistically, you could be somebody who is just well-versed on the Constitution, our nation's founding, and be able to spar legalese at times. You don't have to be an actual lawyer in order to be able to sit on the bench. You find somebody like that who doesn't have a lot of skeletons in their closet. Can't really be ripped on, realistically, by the senators. If they have no objections, then you get put on the bench. Anyway. Alrighty, folks. That is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor. Oh, wait. Before I go, I gotta tell those over on pilled.net, PILLED.net, as well as any newcomers to this show. Wednesday night. Wednesday is Whiskey Wednesday. It's an hour-and-a-half show. And at the end of that show, I have a segment called Pet of the Week. I do not have a Pet of the Week this week. And so if you have a pet that you would like me to feature, what you need to do is send me pictures, videos, something, and a little story. Give me their name. Give me their breed, whatever, age, whatever kinds of information you want to put. And you can send that. You can send that to me at fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. And at the end of the show on Wednesday night, we have Pet of the Week, if I have one. So get it in. Send it in. I don't want to have to keep asking. You can keep sending them in. Just send them in over and over and over again. Not the same ones, of course, but send them in, and I'll have them in the queue. So there you go. All right. That is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor. If you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com. Get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure that you search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time that I go live. Also, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, a thumbs down, or in the case of 3 Chevy, a thumb sideways or at an angle across all my platforms, whether it's X, YouTube, Facebook, and the aforementioned Rumble, and of course, pilled.net, PILLED.net. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.